Guys, welcome to this video. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection lawyer, and I want to talk with you about Section 1681I, and that is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So you do a dispute to the credit bureaus. What do they have to do with your dispute? I want to tell you three options that they have, and then I'll tell you the fourth option that they wish they had, but when they exercise this fourth option, they're in a world of hurt. Okay, so what are the actual three options they have? Well, number one, they can say this is a frivolous dispute. And they have 5 business days to decide that. And if they make that decision, they better be right. They better be reasonable in making that decision. And they have to tell you, hey, we think this is frivolous. Here's what you need to do so that we will actually investigate your dispute. They very rarely do that because it's very dangerous for them. Because what if they're wrong? Okay, what if it's an unreasonable, frivolous designation? Well, now they violated the statute, and they didn't even do an investigation. They refused to do one. That's a bad look for them. So that's number one. Number two, they can just delete the account. So you might have the most elaborate dispute, and you say, I want you to fix this month of the payment history and this high balance and this and this. And they just go, you know what? We'll just delete the account. We're not doing an investigation. We can just delete it. That's legitimate for them to do. So they can deem it frivolous, where they can just delete it. But if they do not say your dispute is frivolous, and they better be very careful about that, and if they don't delete it, then they must investigate. Now, part of the investigation is they have to reach out to the furnisher, if the furnisher provided the information that's being disputed. Okay, but they have to do this investigation, reasonable investigation. And there's a similar section, or a section that we use sometimes to sue the credit bureaus called the EB, so 1681 EB. And that's when it talks about you have to have reasonable procedures for maximum possible accuracy. When we look at these two provisions, the EB is they just have to have procedures in place to try to avoid just obvious errors, okay? So it's reasonable and it's maximum possible accuracy. But once you dispute something, now you're under that 1681I, it's a whole different ballgame because they're not having to look at all the data for the entire report. They have to look at just what you have challenged. So it's a really thorough investigation that they are supposed to do. And a lot of times they just will do a lousy investigation. And they violate Section 1681 EB by not having reasonable procedures for maximum possible accuracy. Well, what's the fourth option? So I said these are the three options. What's this fourth option that they do? Here's what they do. They say, well, you disputed something, and you have to prove to us in your dispute that it's absolutely inaccurate. And if you don't do that, then we don't have to investigate. And we don't have to deem it to be frivolous. And we don't have to delete it. We just get to do nothing. And we get to say these meaningless things like, your dispute concerns something that factually has occurred. Like, what does that even mean? Okay, I have no idea what that means. Yeah, the context is, and TransUnion is notorious about this, you dispute an inquiry and they go, well, there's nothing to investigate because it's factual that you had an inquiry. It's like, well, yeah, what does that mean? Okay, I could be a victim of identity theft. It's factual that I have that bogus Capital One account on my credit report. What does that mean? You still have to investigate it. But just understand these credit bureaus, particularly in this era of COVID, are just loving to not investigate. And they come up with all these elaborate sounding excuses. They pay these lawyers in these really tall buildings, pay them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour to go argue with a straight face that, Judge, we don't have to do an investigation. They didn't prove that it was false. And the consumer must prove to us it's false before we investigate. No. We have to show that there appears to be an inaccuracy and then demand an investigation. Now, a lot of courts will say ultimately there does need to be an inaccuracy. But when these bureaus just refuse to investigate and we put them on notice of something that's legitimately, at least appears to be wrong, and they just refuse to investigate, they got big problems when they do that. So remember, they can say this is frivolous. They better be right when they do this. They can just delete it. It's always an option for them. So if you dispute anything, understand, they may just delete it. So frivolous, deletion, or do a real investigation. But this fourth option they want, which is, well, we just won't even investigate because we don't think that you're right, and you have to prove you're right before we'll investigate. No. When we put them on notice, we're challenging something, and we have a legitimate basis for doing that. They must investigate. Remember, that's option 3. Or the second option, they can just delete. Or the first option, they better be reasonable when they do this, declare that our dispute is frivolous. There is no fourth option. And so just keep that in mind as you're dealing with the credit bureaus. These guys are just, in my opinion, notorious for trying to break the law, for trying to avoid their obligations under the law. And they're proud to take your money. They're proud to take the money from people who provide information, furnish information. But then when it comes time for them to actually do an investigation, they're like, oh, wait, we don't want to do this. Or, COVID. Well, COVID hadn't stopped them from collecting all this money and reporting on you. So COVID's not going to stop them from doing a proper investigation. They can do it just fine, even with COVID going on. So when they violate the law, I would definitely look at suing them. So appreciate you guys watching this video, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.